All right, how's it going? Welcome to a new presentation on this Saturday, January 3rd, the first full moon of 2026. We just heard about Trump uh, taking down Maduro in Venezuela. Is it related? Probably. This presentation is called The God Set and the Semites, Part 1. This is going to be, it's not going to include a lot about Canaan or the Semites, but it will give the earlier um, where they came from kind of history and how Set is pushed into Canaan. Um, so we'll just go from there. The next video will be more on like the Hyksos and stuff like that. So both should be very interesting. So I hope you guys like it and enjoy it. A lot of information, and let's go. Uh, I apologize for the red lettering, but I had to do it. So it might be a little bit hard to read, but I'll read it to you the best I can. I know I'm not the most articulate person, but here we go. Who is the god Set? One of the earliest forms of a god was as a storm god. The Egyptian god Set was made a storm god. Set has many names such as Seth, Sudi, Sutek, Typhon, Bebo, Shma, Shmai, Nehaher, or Nepti. Storms, floods, lightning, thunder, deluges, violence, confusion, upheaval, and gold are all of his name. However, some of these names are merely the same names of his grandfather Ra. Set was the setting sun, destruction, desert, and the heat of the summer that would kill vegetation. Compare this to Ra, the Almighty at noon when he is the fiercest. Set would bring winter and would try to steal the light from Ra and Horus, or in modern times, cause diseases and sickness, or the Grinch that stole Christmas. Set was the opposite of law and order, and Ra and Horus lived by Mayat, which is truth and justice. Who is the god Set? Set was originally an ally of Ra against the great serpent Apophis, and Set would kill him when he tried to swallow the sun. He was known for his great strength, and the peculiar Set animal is found as early as King Scorpion prior to the first dynasty, and therefore before 3000 BCE, found on King Scorpion's mace head. Set was born to the goddess Nut and the god Seb or Keb, and his name means stone, or which equals stony. The stone is either rectangular or circular and is sacred to the people of Set. Set was born in Kamambos, which is Nupt, the city of gold in Egypt, where his temple is at. Or he was born at Ambos, Nakata, in Egypt. He's married to his sister Nephlis, but in the Semitic pantheon, his consorts are Astarte and Anat. Royalty in the upper class followed him and venerated him as a god. It's important not to forget that he's a part of the family of Ra. Where do the ancestors of the Semites come from? It's proposed that they come from the Mushabian culture coming from Egypt and northern Africa dated to about 12,000 BCE, which may have brought the ancestral language of the Semites from Egypt into the Sinai and Canaan. The Semites come from the northern Erythraite language group, which was the group of grain seed collectors who settled in Egypt and came from the Red Sea hills of Egypt and Sudan, and the Ethiopian highland areas. The ancient Egyptian language comes from them. The Semites would get their ancestral culture from these people prior to moving into the Levant and mixing with the Kebaran culture and creating the Natufian culture found at Jericho. The languages after Semitic are the South. The languages that come after Semitic are the South Arabians, the Saba, and the Ethiopians, such as the Amhara and Ge'ez, and the Arabs. Set is the god of evil, darkness, and death. The god Set resembles darkness, death, chaos, and destruction. He was the antagonist to the day and the sun gods of light, Ra and Horus. Everything associated with evil became associated with him. Originally, he was the older sibling and favored by Ra, but that changed when he began to rebel against his grandfather and or the state. Horus was chosen instead to ascend the throne of Ra, and a great war took place because of this. Set and his followers were eventually pushed out of Egypt and into the Sinai. Horus stood watch at Zion and made sure that the great god Set would not return. The battle for control of all of Egypt. However, Set and other Canaanite peoples allied to him and had already been moving into and gaining power in the northern Egyptian delta, while the sun god's strongholds ruled the south. The defeat of Set by Horus unified both kingdoms well into the second dynasty of Egypt, and from the first king of the first dynasty until the sixth king of the second dynasty, who was named Perab Sen, who worshipped Set. Horus was the state god during that time. The struggle of both kingdoms seemed to have continued until the last king of the second dynasty, or the first king of the third, who was named Kasekhemwi, who united both together again. Trade and the undermining of the state, the storm god. The half of the royal family that followed Set or were under his totem, and the Nakata people established trading networks with the people in Canaan, even before dynastic rule began. It seems to have undermined the state government of Ra and Horus, who must have inferred that the foreign trade was a state function and under its control. At the same time, there was cross-border immigration occurring in the northeast of the delta. Therefore, Set became associated with foreign countries and the antagonist against the state, a tool. The ancestors of the Semites who had entered the Levant and Arabia prior to 10,000 BCE could relate the Egyptian god Set to their storm gods. Set, labeled a foreigner, Set kills Osiris and is burdened for his sin. Examples of Set being related to foreign gods are Set becoming Baal on the battlefield, or Set being recognized as the equivalent of the Hittites' sky god of storms, Haiti. The native Egyptians became hateful of Set because he murdered their god Osiris, where his body was thrown to the ground at Netet near Abydos. Because of this, like the Christian cross, Set was condemned to carry Osiris on his shoulders. This is where the famous analogy of carrying your brother and saying he's not heavy comes from. During the battle with Horus, Horus tore off Set's balls, speared him in his neck, and dragged him around the city with the spear sticking out of his neck before he cut off his head. The battle between light and darkness. The battle between light and darkness is now the battle between good men against sin. Set came back to life as the serpent that he once fought against and hid underground. The people were afraid of the terror of Set and made him into the crocodile which the Nile River people feared. He gathered all the men like him and Seba, who and all who became and were called evil, wicked men and devils. Set is also called Seba and Siva, or Seba, in the Jewish Bible, and he is the son of Cush. All deadly animals became associated with Set and his people, and he sent a scorpion to kill Horus. After Set killed Osiris, he imprisoned Isis, probably to marry him to get the crown. Horus watches over Set at An-Rut F. The Libya or Libyans in the western part of the delta and west of Egypt were followers of Set. The name Cebu was given to the people associated with Seti and Seba, and it means rebel. After the great battle which forced Set and his followers all the way to the corners of the northeastern delta and into the Sinai, near there in the desert where nothing grows at a place called An-Rut If, Horus Behetet, the elder, the king, kept watch over the great god Set. While for some reason Isis seems to have wanted Ra to leave from there. The great house that was created there was called the House of Ast Nefert. We know Ast is the serpent goddess. Horus and his blacksmiths prevail. Thoth named the boat that he was on with Ra, Horus and his blacksmiths, The priest with them was Neb-Aha, and they named the place where Set and his people would dwell Neterhet. The blacksmiths, or the Mesetu, were stationed in all four quarters to protect the land from Set and his followers. Ra blessed them, gave them sanctuaries, and decreed that libations, purifications, and offerings should be made to images of them. He appointed his priests to worship them. Hate builds for the god Set and his people. Thoth made Horus lord of Mesent and over the domain of the west. The four children or brothers of Horus fought against the evil of Set and his people. In the sky, they are said to be behind the constellation of the thigh of the Great Bear of the northern sky. In Hebrew, this is Seifan, which means north. The cult of followers of Set flourished up to the time in between the 12th and the 18th dynasty. And by 1700 BCE, which is about the time of the 13th dynasty, the Egyptians really hated him. The Hippo clan, the enemy of Set. Set is considered the mighty one. He usually carries a knife made of iron instead of bone. The main opponents of Set were the Hippo goddess Reret, who kept darkness and controlled and chained up. Reret is another form of Isis, and Set hates Isis. Think of Isis today. ISIS today meaning the ISIS that the United States likes to try to say that they're fighting against. In the Middle and New Kingdoms, Seth takes the dead souls, eats the dead, and stays in dark, gloomy places. Set and goats and his association with hippos. Set keeps goats and goats were slaughtered in Busuris, the city of Osiris, in the northern delta. The good gods would sacrifice Set animals to show triumph over them, such as the red ox or desert oryx. The red ox was supposed to be Set himself and is a hippo to his enemies. Set is a hippo to his enemies, probably because the danger of hippos to humans. A royal hippo hunt would take place because of this, existing as early as the first dynasty of Egypt. The priest of the city of Edfu, where Horus the Elder came from, would eat hippo cakes to show his death. The red donkey and Set. Other animals associated with the characteristics of Set were the crocodile, the panther, which he could turn into, of which was branded with an iron by Anubis, the donkey, and the pig. They would strangle the goose to kill Set. The followers of Set were red-skinned and looked like Set himself. They would sacrifice a red donkey by throwing it off a cliff. Because the donkey was a Set animal, the people of Busiris and Lycopolis, places of Osiris, do not like the donkey and consider it unclean. The red donkey and Set. They will stamp their cakes with a donkey and sacrifice the donkey to the sun. The Egyptians equate the donkey to Set for its red color and for its stupidity and the sensuality that he portrays in his character. The Egyptians will label the enemy kings, such as the Persian king Okis, an ass or a donkey. Because of this, he killed an Apis bull. The legend is that Set escaped from the battle on a donkey across the Sinai. The serpent Apepi is called the eater of the ass, or donkey. The donkey was known for its masculine traits and therefore could be associated with Ra. Locations of Set, worship, and the 56 angles. Set was compared to the Semitic god Baal, whose name in Egyptian is Bar or Baalu, and is a popular name in Syria. In Middle Egypt, the center of his worship was at Sept Mert Tet or Oxyrhynchus in the Greek. In the Delta, it was at Het Ert or the Avaris in the northeast delta of the Hyksos, which was where the Hykso king Apepa made him the greatest of all gods, and at one time became the national god of the Delta. So we see the Hyksos here making Set the national god of the Delta and of their own people. The Pythagoreans rank Set in the order of the demons and say he was produced in the even number 56. Eudoxus says the figure of the 56 angles is the expression of the nature of Set. To the right here we have the 56 angles on a circle. I believe it's a circle. Where I took the picture from, you can't see the top and bottom, but it's supposed to be a full circle with all the 56 angles on it. I don't know if it's a exact circle. It probably is. But it may be more like an oblong kind of circle. Souls of the dead in the red bull and the cutting off its head. Plutarch also says that the red complexion of Set or Typhon is the reason that the Egyptians only use red bulls in their sacrifice. This is because the sacrificial animal must be a creature where the souls of the wicked and unjust men have been confined to during their transmigration. Once they are found, the souls in these animals, they place a curse on the animal and cut off its head and throw it in the Nile. This is where the cutting off the heads in mythology comes from, like with Nimrod. Later they would throw the head in front of the foreigners in Egypt. The pig, Set, and the Egyptians. Erit says that among the ancestors of the ancient Egyptians, the early important protected animal may have been the pig. During the winter, a black pig was chopped up and placed on an altar on the banks of the Nile for Set to keep him happy. Horus originally kept bulls, goats, and pigs, but because of Set, the pig became an abomination and started to be left out of the sacrificial ritual of his followers. The pig became taboo, and Seth became associated with the black boar. The pig then became evil in Egypt. The pig in Horus's eye. Bud says that in the 6th division of the Tuat near the judgment scales is a boat with an ape pushing a pig to go forward so he can receive his punishment. Seth transforms himself into the black pig, and Ra told Horus to look at the pig, and Set strikes Horus in the eye with fire. Ra tells all the gods that the pig Set is an abomination to Horus. The black pig is sacrificed to prevent Set from attacking the full moon. The Egyptians used pigs as bait to catch crocodiles, a sacrifice. Sacrificing a pig to the full moon. Herodotus says that if a pig touched a person or its clothes, he would immediately go directly to the Nile and wash himself, and that those who kept herds of pigs were the only men not allowed to enter the temples. That the Egyptians would sacrifice the pig to a full moon and to Cush, son of Amen. The rich of or royalty would only eat pork on a full moon. To the right is a picture of the Romans about to sacrifice a pig. But sacrificing pigs and eating pork seems to be very ancient, from probably when the first out of Africans moved out of Africa, out of Northeast Africa. The pig in ancient societies. The poor would make pigs in a blanket and bake them and offer them as sacrifices. Hor Apollo says the pig is the symbol of a filthy man. Elian says the pig will eat human flesh. And the Egyptians despised the pig but kept them because they needed them to tread the grain into the ground. Osiris is also somehow unknowingly connected to the pig. Certain clans around the world refuse to eat pigs because they cause disease. All right, that's the end of this one. And bibliography, we have George Hart, The Dictionary of Egyptian Gods and Goddesses, Wallace Budge, The Gods of the Egyptians, Christopher Erert, Civilizations of Africa, William R. Osborne, The Monument History of Egypt. And thanks for watching. My name is Stephen Webb Jr. from San Diego. Take care and have a good night.